Hello, this is Angela Legh, and I am here today with Dr. Unnatti. Is that the way you say it? Unnatti?
It's Unnatti, yes.
Unnatti Jain. She is a brilliant psychologist, PhD, who is working with parents and teens, a Gen Z expert. So, will you tell us what that means?
Sure. So, just a slight bit of change. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't hold a medical degree. I have a doctorate in leadership and change with
Ah,
focus on Gen Z and millennial behaviors. So, I study behaviors, and I'm a certified parent teen coach, and I coach teenagers and youth between the age of 12 to 26 on 52 different concepts, converting them into holistic individuals. I also work with parents to bridge the generational divide. If you look at my website, my tagline is bridging generations. So that's really
wow.
what my work is focused on. I also am an author of a book called A Parent Teen Journey, which is on Amazon. And I am a TEDx speaker. So if you go on to my website, www.genznu.com, you'll see my TEDx talk there, and of course on YouTube and on the TEDx site. And you'll see all my courses and my books there.
Gen Z and
You.
YOU or
No,
just
it's you,
you?
as in you. So it's Gen Z, AND, and the alphabet U.
.com. I just put it in the chat. Okay. So it's interesting because Facebook said your content is against community standards.
Yeah, because it doesn't help you put. It doesn't let you. Facebook does not let you put any internet site on there. That's why.
Ah, I see. Okay. Well, for YouTube and LinkedIn, the link is in the chat, and otherwise, Gen Z and You. It's a wonderful resource for parents and for teens. And so, we were going to talk about conscious parenting today, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. And I know that you are also an advocate for that. So, can you tell us what you think conscious parenting means?
Place of response versus reaction. I think that's
Ah,
how I define it. Of course, there's a lot more aspects to it. It's about you doing your inner work, you figuring out what your triggers are, what your past is, and what are you putting on your child based on your triggers. So your child is another entity. It's another human being who's come
it
into
is
the
another
world
being.
with his or her own strengths and growth areas. And how much are you allowing the child to grow based on their strengths and growth areas versus what you want the child to be based on
Mm,
your triggers?
that's interesting. Yes, the expectations. Usually tell parents that expectations of outcome leads to wounding and disharmony and a whole bunch of other stuff. And when you have expectations, say that your child thrives, then it's a supportive and reasonable expectation. But if you are expecting your child to grow up to be an attorney because you were an attorney and your father was an attorney and his father was an attorney and it's what we do in this family, then you are putting a lot of pressure on a kid who may not wish to be an attorney.
And you're creating very bitter human beings.
Yeah, there are a lot of
Because
adults who had parents with expectations of who their child should be, and they are traumatized and bitter about that.
yes, and it's very sad. And that's why we have so much of sadness and grief in this world because we have unhappy individuals. If we were to take care of and become conscious parents, when our children are growing up, we'll have a lot of less substance abuse, less gun violence, less
Oh,
unhappiness, less unhappy individuals in this
mm.
world.
Yeah, and that speaks to my heart also because I know that, especially you talked about emotional triggering.
Yes.
When we teach children how to deal with their emotions so that they don't have to repress, so that they don't become triggered by the behavior of others, that's going to really cut into alcohol and drug abuse and all the other aspects of how people avoid feeling their feelings.
So I was just on another Instagram live, and I think I brought this up, and I also did an Instagram reel on this issue, which is a lot of parents come to me and they say they struggle with expression, expressing their feelings to their loved ones, to the world in general, self
Mhm.
advocating.
Yeah.
And all of the above has to do with if you weren't allowed to have a voice when you were a child.
Yep.
When you're not allowed to speak when you were a child and your parents are not emotionally present, you grow up to be individuals who are not aware of other people's emotions, not aware of your own emotions, and not good at expressing those emotions,
Mm.
which leads to a rift in relationships, which
Yes.
leads to loneliness, which leads to a place where you feel empty and lost. So
And
it has a
beyond
very deep
that,
impact.
it's all of that and the repression of emotions because you weren't taught how to express or feel them leads to disease.
Yes.
Emotions that are repressed go inward or they express outward. And so we all know people who are triggered by the behavior of others and they lash out. That is a negative expression of emotion. When we can give children understanding that emotions are energy and they need energy must flow. So emotions must be expressed. There are positive ways to express even the most harsh emotion. And giving kids those tools is very important.
Yes.
And giving it to parents too.
Yes. And that's what I do in my coaching is I give parents and teens tools to cope with emotions by strengthening all of the concepts which make you into a complete individual.
Mm, I love that. I usually talk about emotional well being
Yes.
because that emotional resilience, being able to get through the hardest emotions is really an important skill. It's a life skill that
It is.
everybody needs.
Emotional resilience and the ability to be able to express yourself in a way that you're able to convey your emotions
Yeah.
is very important. I always give everybody an example. When you go to a doctor for an artery that's blocked, the doctor says, I have cleared the artery now, but I'm not confident. I can't tell you whether that it will not happen again. It
Mhm.
may happen again. And that really is a stuck emotion in your body.
It very much
And what
is.
the doctor is really saying is, I have cleared it. It was an emotion that was stuck in the form of a blockage. I've cleared it. But if you don't express, and if you don't speak, and if you don't go into self-awareness and conscious and become a conscious being, it will happen again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because really everything I'm a big yoga practitioner and a yoga instructor, and everything really is a stuck emotion in your body. And we don't call it, in the yoga world, we don't call it disease. We call it dis-ease.
Yes. Yeah. It's so true. And there is like this whole emotional freedom available
Mhm.
for people. And that's psychological freedom. It's physiological freedom. It's not just about your emotions, but this freedom is available for everyone who can choose to face their emotions.
Yeah. My tagline is also behind every action, there is an emotion.
Mm, so true.
Everything that you do, everything that we say, everything has an emotion behind it. If we were able to identify that emotion, we will come from a place of strength, and the way we will express ourselves will be completely different than we do now.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because it's a positive expression of emotions. I don't hear people talking about negative expression or positive expression. And that seems so clear to me. This painting behind me could be someone's expression of emotion, and they painted these big slashes of color that can be a way to positively express anger. There's so many other ways. There's writing, there's exercise, there's there's ways to get that energy out. And I think it's really important for us as adults to start giving kids these tools. You're feeling angry? Go for a run. You're
I
feeling
think,
angry?
yeah,
Write it all down. Write a story about it. There's so many ways to get that energy flowing.
there are so many people out there. I think all of us, not so many people, all of us, our biggest thing is that we want to be heard. We
Oh,
want to be
yes.
seen. We want to be heard.
Yeah.
So when somebody is expressing their emotion to you, if you were to just listen without judgment, without expression,
Mm.
without any of the above, you could completely change your life.
And even if you listen to your own emotions without judgment,
Absolutely.
it can change your life.
Very true.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the tools that kids get through my books is a technique for facing a feeling, because we know that the biochemistry of a feeling is about 90 seconds.
Mhm.
And when we think about people who spend years or a lifetime avoiding a feeling, it's kind of crazy. But if you give the feeling itself 90 seconds, it'll flow.
Yeah.
So,
And that's why, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
it's crazy simple. You feel it, you name it, and you give yourself permission.
Process it. Yep.
You
And
allow
you
it.
process it.
Yeah. Boom, done.
Yes. I so agree with you, Angela. So well said. And that's why we have it's all because of emotions that we don't have um, um, we have all the dis-ease in the world.
Mhm,
We have substance abuse. We have gun violence. We
mhm.
have all of the other things that the youth are going through. And youth are particularly who I have a soft spot for the youth because I work with the youth.
Me too.
If we don't do our work intentionally as parents, what are we teaching our youth?
Well, and that's a really interesting point, because modeling emotional maturity is a key parenting thing. And how many parents know that? How many parents understand that their emotional triggers are teaching kids to be emotionally triggered?
You will be surprised. All of the children that I coach, all of the youth that I coach, when the parents come to me and they say, my child does not listen to me, I need you to help me. 90% of the time, and I'm quite blunt because that's what they pay me for, is really I say, allow me to coach you and I can change your child through you.
Yes.
Because 90% of the way children react is because of your emotional reactions.
Mhm.
You're the mature one. The
Right.
child is only
You're the
growing.
parent. Ah.
You're the parent.
Yeah,
You don't like to hear it, but you are the parent.
exactly. Yeah. And I think it's so important for parents to understand that aspect of what really is conscious parenting, understanding that a, every word you say is may or may not be heard, but your actions will be seen.
Yeah.
And so you must model the behavior you want your children to express.
You can't say my child is constantly on the phone if the phone is attached to you all the time.
Oh my
You
gosh.
can't. It's
You can't.
they're watching you. They're looking
Yeah,
at you, and you are their single mentor in their life. So they're thinking to themselves, if my parents can do it, must be the right thing to do. So I'm going to do it too.
absolutely. And the old way of do what I say, not what I
Don't do as
do.
I do. Yeah,
Yeah,
doesn't
that
work anymore.
did that ever work?
Yeah.
I mean, really, because when my parents said it to me, I was like, oh, sure, right. You can go drink and you could do this, and I'm not supposed to. It doesn't make sense. So, yeah, let go of that idea as a parent and begin modeling the behavior you want to see and watch your child change. Oof.
Yes. And my coaching is normally based around 52 different concepts to create a completely holistic individual. For instance, one of the concepts that I coach on is gratitude.
Beautiful.
Very often we turn around and say, our teens are ungrateful. Okay, which they are. But how many times have you sat down and explained to them what gratitude is? Why do they need to be grateful? How do they need to be grateful? And
Mm,
how much have you mentored that behavior and repeated yourself to ensure that your child becomes grateful?
right. And mentoring that behavior is really important. I have what I call 7 pillars of living a magical life. Gratitude is one of them. And self-love, self-awareness, self-trust, these things are really they're activated when we begin to love ourselves. That is so hard for people who were traumatized as a youth, and learning that that person who traumatized you is the one who was behaving badly and that you were the innocent child being the victim of that person, can help you to let go of those things that people told you.
And really think about it, Angela. I think we all have been traumatized at some point in our time in our lives
Oh, I'm
by
sure.
somebody or the other.
Yeah.
Right? It may not be our parents, it may not be our friends, but it's somebody or the other. We are carrying layers of grief, layers of trauma, each one of us.
Hmm.
How is it that we come from a place of conscious parenting if we don't let go of that trauma?
Mm,
Because
beautiful
then we're
point.
not treating our children as individuals. We're treating our children as an offshoot of us.
An extension of me. Yeah.
We're passing on generational trauma.
Hmm. Yeah. It is so the whole mini me um, thing that many millennial parents do of, I wanted to be a cheerleader, so I'm going to raise my daughter to be a cheerleader. And then I'm living out my dream of what I wanted to do through my daughter. That's crazy. I'm sorry, it is.
What happened to the daughter? And poor thing,
Yeah,
when she
what
grew
about
up,
what
she
the
was like, oh
daughter
my God,
wants?
I've grown up and where are my dreams gone? They're vanished. I
Yeah.
have no dreams because my parents took away my dreams.
And
And then
that,
the resentment grows.
yes. And what happens is 40 years later, that adult is like, where did my life go?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, parents, allow your child to be who they are, please.
Yeah. Allow them to voice their opinions. When adults come to me and they say they struggle with self expression, it's because they have gone through emotional neglect in childhood. It's
Mm.
because when they were children, they were not allowed to speak or voice their opinion. There's a reel that I have on Facebook which went viral on self advocacy. And I got a lot of negative comments and some positive comments too, especially from the developing nations, where they said, our culture says, a child is not supposed to speak in front of parents. And
Mm.
here's what I will say to that. There is a very fine line between fear and respect.
Yes.
Does your child fear you or does your child respect you? If your child is not talking in front of you out of respect, that's a different story. If your child is not speaking to you, or speaking in
Mm.
front of you out of fear, then you're developing an individual who will not be able to step out into the real world and talk about themselves.
When you use fear as a parenting tool, you are not only traumatizing your child, but you are teaching them fear and power are the way to be in the world.
Absolutely.
And this is a character that we do not want. If we look at the leadership of this world, chances are they were raised to fear their parents, and they are now acting in a way that is not truly beneficial to humanity. We need to teach children to respect and love. And how we do that is by respecting and loving them.
And here's what I'll say on fear. When you're a child and you raise your child in fear, that is an emotion that the child recognizes.
Mm-hmm.
That is an emotion that the child somewhere feels comfortable with also.
Right.
So
It's
when
what
they
they
grow
know.
up, it's what they know. When they grow up and go into the real world and form relationships, they're the ones who are abused. They're not the abusers. They're the ones who are abused. They're the ones who go into the corporate world, don't know how to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And they live in fear and they thrive on fear because that's the only thing that they know.
And you're describing me when I was in my government job, married to the man that I had formerly been married to. I was the victim. And that victim came because of my fear of my father. And that followed me for 50 some years of my life until I became awakened and started doing that internal healing and self development that brought me to the point where I can write these books for children that teach them these things.
There
Yeah.
you go. I mean, and we have so many. I mean, I think every human being has gone through, like I said, some form of trauma. Why do we want to wait? And that's one of the reasons that I work with youth because
Mhm.
I sorted out my trauma between 38 and 40. And I don't think anybody should wait that long to sort out that trauma. Why do we have to wait and say, okay, now it's midlife crisis? If we were to
Exactly.
tackle this when we were 18, 17, 20, you
What
know
if
what? We
at
can lead a
10
happy
they could?
life.
Yeah. It's like I didn't need a wildfire to awaken me if
Correct.
I had learned about emotions before that point.
And that is the reason I do what I do is nobody should wait for that long in their life to enjoy their life, to get over their past trauma. Address it, move on. When you're a youth, when you are 17, 18, 20, address it, move on, and lead a happy life.
And for listeners to understand that emotional trauma can be like an onion, and you
Yes.
address it. You peel off one layer, but there is many layers. And so you may need to address it more than once. However, you will find that there is emotional freedom at the end of addressing it. And that is a goal that is beyond value.
And to add to that point, Angela, that's such an important point that you made, is trauma is not in one layer. It's not one layer. It's like an onion. You're peeling off layers. Well, you accumulate it in layers. So you're going to get rid of it in layers. You
Mhm.
didn't, it took you years to accumulate it. So it's not going to go off immediately. And with every relationship, with every interaction that you've had, you have accumulated some bit of trauma.
Yeah.
So I am a strong proponent. I have a coach myself. I'm a strong proponent of going to therapy, going to coaching, because we all are broken. We all need to heal.
It's so true. And I laughed because when I said that to my former husband, he attacked, enraged, attacked me because he wasn't broken, I was. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it just made me laugh. Sorry.
No, I hear
It's
you. No,
very
I
true.
totally understand you. Those are all narcissists. We're all broken. We're all struggling. We're all growing. We're all evolving. We all need help.
Yeah.
And if we all admit that we need help, then half our problems will be solved. Our
Mm,
youth would not struggle so much.
yeah.
If we were to just work on ourselves, it's so easy to say, oh my God, I'm a teenager's parent. Oh my God, I have a 23-year-old who does not want to get up, go to school, go to work.
All they
Oh
want to
well,
do is play video games.
oh
Yeah.
well.
I've heard that.
Hear the silence. Silence speaks volumes. Here are some red flags, which I
Mm,
did in my earlier life too. And I can, if with your permission, can I point those out, Angela?
please do. Yes.
So if your child is playing excessive video games, not opening the room, is constantly on their phone, has body image issues, faces aggression, is showing you aggression, is uh, uh, is doing substance abuse, is constantly out of the house, or the door is forever closed. These are all red flags.
Yes.
Please take them seriously. Don't wait for it to get out of hand. Mental health is a thing. When you, just like you need a physical doctor, your child needs a physical doctor, your child needs a mental doctor. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It does not mean that you're a bad parent. You're a wonderful parent.
Mm,
But every child should have access to these services so they can express themselves and tell the world tell somebody in a safe space what they're feeling so somebody can help them. So please, I urge every parent out there, get your child help if you see any of these red flags, and don't wait for the last moment.
Thank you for that. It's really important when children go inside and they're not sharing their feelings, then they may turn to self harming. They may turn to alcohol and drugs
Yep,
because they're just not equipped for dealing with these big, heavy feelings. We, as parents, can step in and we can provide them with a counselor who will help them deal with those feelings. We
absolutely.
can talk to them. If they won't talk to us, get them someone to talk to because
And
it's
here is,
really key.
and one thing also I will add to that, Angela, is yes, get a counselor, but more importantly, get a coach. Why? Not because I'm a coach. Of course, I'm a coach. But the reason you want to get a coach, whoever you get instead of a counselor, is specifically for teens. And I'm talking about youth. And I'm not talking about any old age. I'm talking about youth.
Mhm.
Our youth love to vent. They love to tell the world or the counselor how bad the world is, how bad their parents are, how bad the situation is, and how they're struggling. But we want them to move forward. And what coaching does, it is helps them to move forward in their journey. We
Thank you for
briefly
that.
focus on their past.
Yeah. It's I I talk about talk therapy. For one, it is great for giving people a route to express their voice
Correct.
because many kids don't feel like they have that permission to express.
Correct.
But talk therapy does not move the energy. and and you could talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. That energy is still going to be where I feel my discord is in my solar plexus chakra. My stomach gets tied up in knots, and that is the energy that needs to move. And so learning how to express, giving kids these tools, punch pillows, go
Yep.
run 5
Yep.
miles,
Yep.
scream into a pillow, whatever the kid needs to express what they're feeling. It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we do in coaching is we give them coach challenges. Every week we have coach challenges. Our challenge, our focus is to move the child forward. How do
Mm.
you, and as you know, teens don't do what you tell them to do. You can't tell a teen what to do. So coaching is really about taking your child inwards and helping them identify what is it that they're doing which is wrong and how can they move forward. And they take their own decisions. We don't take, as a coach, we don't take their decisions for them.
Mm-hmm.
So just to keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, thank you. It's a beautiful thing, understanding that parents can be the coach for their kids. But coaching is about development. It's about taking
Yes.
that next step and
As long as you're
understanding.
willing to listen, as long
Yeah.
as you're willing not to guide them, as long as you're willing not to be emotionally attached to the outcome that they choose.
Whew,
Sure.
that's huge. Yeah, thank you. It's very important. So, how can parents get a hold of you if they need help with their Gen Z kid?
Sure. So you can go onto my website, which is www.genz, GENZ, and the alphabet U. So genzandyou.com, which may I request, Angela, if you could just put it in the chat for LinkedIn and Facebook won't take it, but
Yeah.
LinkedIn. You can schedule a free consultation with me from my website, which is for 30 minutes, and then we can decide what route do we want to take. My first consultation is free. You can follow me on social media. I post a lot on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, pretty much every day. You can scan my website. I'm coming out with very soon. I'm going to be launching my group coaching sessions for parents and for teens of different age groups. Then I also have one-on-one coaching. You can go ahead and book a one-on-one coaching session with me on my website.
I thank you. This has been such a wonderful exploration about how being conscious in your parenting can really bring wonderful outcomes, unexpected and magical outcomes with your kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm so glad we could make it, Angela. And I loved having you on my podcast. It was a joy.
Thank you.
And thank you for allowing me to come and share on your platform. Very, very grateful. And thank you, everyone, for who happens to hear this. I'm very, very grateful to be here and serve you and serve each and every one of you. And if you do decide, please go ahead and schedule that consultation, and I will look forward to speaking with you.
Yeah, it would be a benefit for you and your kids to schedule a consultation with Dr. Jain. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Angela. Thank you, everyone, for listening.